one of many factors that led to the surprising divergence. Latin America has much richer resources. You expect it to be far more advanced than East Asia, but it had the disadvantage of being under imperialist wings. From the 1970s, the golden age faded. When neoliberal rules were observed, insofar as they've been observed, economic performance deteriorated and social democratic programs have been substantially weakened. We see that right here. The United States partially accepted these rules, and for the past 30 years, real wages for the majority of the population have stagnated. Up till then, they essentially tracked growth. Work hours have increased, now well beyond Europe. Benefits, which have always lagged, have declined. Social indicators, kind of general measure of the health of the society, they also tracked growth until the mid-1970s, when they began to decline and reaching the 1960 level by the end of the millennium. Well, there has been economic growth, but it's finding its way into very few pockets, increasingly into the financial industries, which have grown enormously, while productive industry has significantly declined. We're seeing it right now. And with the decline of productive industry, of course, that means decline in living standards, in fact, even opportunities to survive for much of the workforce. The economy has also been punctuated by bubbles, financial crises, and public bailouts. So the huge bailout of Citigroup right now is nothing new. Something quite similar happened in the early 80s to its predecessor, Citibank, thanks to the US taxpayer. These results were described all through this period and explained by a few really outstanding international economists. David Felix is one. But the mythology about efficient markets and rational choice prevailed. And that's not at all surprising. These myths were highly beneficial to very narrow sectors of privilege and power, what Adam Smith called the principal architects of policy. That's another very severe institutional and cultural crisis which persists. Actually, the phrase golden age of capitalism is a little misleading. It might more accurately be called state capitalism. It's worth bearing in mind that the dynamic state sector was and remains a primary factor in the development and innovation through a variety of measures: research and development, procurement, government procurement, public subsidy, regular bailouts, and other means. That's particularly true in the United States. It was done here under a Pentagon cover, as long as the cutting edge of high-tech industry, advanced economy, was electronics-based. For that, the Pentagon served as good cover. In recent years, if you look at government spending, it's shifting more towards the health-oriented institutions of the government. That's a reflection of the fact that the cutting edge of the economy is becoming more biology-based. That includes computers, the internet, satellites, most of the rest of the IT revolution that finally exploded in the late 90s in a tech bubble, but also much else: civilian aircraft, advanced machine tools, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, and a lot more. The crucial role of the state in economic development should be kept in mind when we read these days dire warnings about government intervention in the financial system after private management has once again driven it to ruins. This time, an unusually severe crisis, and one that harms the rich, not just the poor, so it merits special concern. It's also worth recalling that large-scale state intervention in the economy is nothing new. On the contrary, it's always been a central factor in economic development. It's a matter which which I have time to, there's no time to review it here, but the history, which I'll skip, is quite instructive. These state-guided modes of economic development require considerable deceit in a society where the public can't be controlled by force. So people can't be told that the advanced economy relies heavily on the principle that the population pays the costs and takes the risks, and that the profit is eventually privatized, and eventual can be a long time, sometimes decades, as in the case of computers and the internet, for example. After World War II, Americans were told that their taxes were going to support defense against monsters about to overcome us. That's why I was under a Pentagon cover. So, for example, in the mid-60s, when LBJ warned that there are only 150 million of us, and there are 3 billion of them, and if might makes right, they're going to sweep over us and take what we have, so we have to stop them in Vietnam. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it is. For those who are concerned to understand